After Mommy left, Mago once again became our little mother and took care of us all. Betty missed Mommy the most. She cried and cried for our mother until one day the crying finally stopped. She wrapped her arms around Mago and clung to her with her chubby hands. I loved my little sister, and I didn't mind that Mago paid more attention to her than she did to me. Before, I used to think that since Betty had been born in the United States, she was more special to Mommy. Now I saw that we were all the same to her. We were all just as easy to abandon. Mago didn't want to talk about Mommy. Instead, she talked to us about Papi. Now, more than ever, she clung to the memory of him and told us that one day soon he'd come back for us. Papi will save us, she said. He'll be our hero. The months passed and Mommy did not return. Abuelita Chinta was doing her best to look after us, but she didn't earn much as a curandera, a healer. It was hard for her to feed 4 children and herself. Since she was a respected and beloved healer, people would bring her fruit from their trees like guavas, oranges, and plums, and she would give them to us. If someone gave her a tablecloth as a gift, she used that cloth to make dresses for us, saying her table had no use for such things. She's too old for this, Mago said one day as we watched Abuelita Chinta make her way down the dirt road to do a cleansing. Mago shut her textbook and said, "What's the point? Why study so much when we all know I won't finish school? I should just quit now and get a job, put some food on the table." "Don't say that," I said. "You have to finish school. One day you'll be a secretary, you'll have a good job and make us all proud." Back then, Mago loved school more than anyone else I knew, even more than me. Sometimes at night, when everyone was sleeping, she would tell me about her dream of going to technical school and being a secretary one day. Being a secretary had once been Mommy's dream. Mago would put her fingers in the air and pretend to type on an invisible typewriter. I would close my eyes and picture her dressed in a pretty silk blouse and black skirt with a slit in the back, the kind secretaries in soap operas wore. I imagined her boss, a handsome lawyer, telling her she was the best secretary he'd ever had. Then they would fall in love and get married. Mago was almost a little woman. She was 12 now, and the boys were starting to notice her. But she was very self-conscious about her scars. "I'm ugly," she would say while looking at herself in the mirror. To me, she was the most beautiful girl in town. The next day, Mago left early and didn't tell us where she was going. She came back in the afternoon with a smile. "I got a job at the train station selling quesadillas. I'm starting there tomorrow." "What? But what about school?" Abuelita Chinta asked. "I'm still going to go. I'll go to my job straight after school." Abuelita Chinta looked down at the floor and shook her head. "I'm sorry, my granddaughter," she said. "Don't feel sorry for me, Abuelita," Mago said. "I want to work and help you. Oh, and by the way, my boss said that if there are any quesadillas left over, I can bring them home for all of you." The next day, when we were done with our dinner of beans and tortillas, Abuelita Chinta told us to go to the train station and wait for Mago. "It's too dark for your sister to walk home by herself," she said. Carlos and I put on our sandals and left. I wondered if there would be any leftover quesadillas for Mago to bring home. My mouth watered at the thought of sinking my teeth into them. Carlos and I had a competition to see who could stay on the rail the longest. Soon we heard the rumbling of the approaching evening train, and we turned to see it snaking its way through the hills, shaking the leaves of the trees along the tracks. The conductor blew the whistle, and we scrambled out of the way. We rushed down the dirt road and ran along with the train. It beat us to the station. When we got there, most of the passengers had gotten off the train, and the few who were continuing on to Cuernavaca or Mexico City were boarding. We sat on a bench and watched Mago go from passenger car to passenger car carrying a tray of chicken quesadillas. She offered them to passengers waiting for the train to depart. The whistle blew and the conductor yelled, "Vámonos!" But Mago was still inside the train. Last-minute passengers hurried to get on. Come out, I said under my breath. The train started to move, and Mago was nowhere in sight. I stood up and rushed over to the train. "What are you doing?" Carlos said as he ran after me. The wheels of the train rotated as it pulled out of the station. It would be so easy for Mago to stay on the train. She could decide to leave this place and not come back. She could finally say that enough is enough. She's tired of being our little mother. My breath caught in my throat, and I found myself rushing to the moving train, walking alongside it, desperately searching for my sister. "Mago! Mago!" I yelled, tears streaming down my face. Then, finally, Mago appeared on the landing of the last passenger car with an empty tray and jumped off just before the train sped up. "I thought you were leaving me," I told her reproachfully. She laughed and ruffled my hair. "Never," she said. We stood there as the train rushed past us in a blur.